Welcome to SV 67D Principles of Management 1. We continue our discussion on Unit 4 Planning. We're going to focus our discussion on Session 6, the contingency approach to planning. My name, as usual, is Felicia Frida Aidan Aqua. By the end of the session, you should be able to explain the scenario planning or contingency planning and explain the model of contingency planning as well. So what is contingency planning? Contingency planning, I would say in simple terms, is about having not just one plan, but having backup plans. So you should have plan A, plan B, plan C, if possible, plan D and plan E, or even plan F. So how does this actually take place? When it comes to contingency plans, the what if plans or the scenario based planning, it's actually about having multiple plans based on future forecast. And then this actually, a typical example is the COVID-19 when it came, and then we didn't really see it as anything which was going to happen to Ghana very soon. Then in 2020, we all had to go into lockdown. You realize that in 2021, when we're all planning our businesses after COVID-19's lockdown, people were then now doing contingency planning. People were now looking at the fact that what if we go on lockdown? What if this thing comes serious and then we can't make sales? What do we do? And so people then started looking at, okay, so if we go into normalcy again, we're going to go into our offices. If we don't go normalcy, we're going to have virtual. Another option was we're going to do hybrid. Some even looked at producing from home, reducing costs and all those ones, because around that time a lot of things will happen, and so you need to project into to see, is the next lockdown going to be the next month, or there's not going to be lockdown even in the next month or in the next week? If the lockdown comes, will it happen, or does it affect your region or your locality of production or of work or not? And so you realize that now you have to look at other scenarios. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And that is what it is about contingency planning. You are doing the what ifs into the future. And these actually help you reduce crisis management. Crisis management is about when a thing happens, let's say a crisis happens, how do you solve it? How do you work with this? How do you manage it? But if you're able to forecast into the future, you'd realize that there will be less of crisis management to be done. And so for those who are able to forecast into 2020, who were able to see that there could be potential lockdown, some had already set up their digital platforms and things. And so when it happened, they were still in business. They could still sell their things online and receive their mobile money payments and their e-payments, and they were still in business. But some businesses had to also stay in lockdown and they couldn't work at all. So it reduces crisis management as well, and it also helps managers develop more managerial skills, because these things require extra skills and they help you polish your decision making and all those other skills you need as a manager. It also helps managers engage in variety of decision making skills, like I was saying, decision making techniques, because you need to have a lot of varieties to be able to work with the various scenarios, even to see which scenario could possibly happen, what won't happen. And so these are some things that beauties about contingency planning, if I should put it like that. So how does contingency planning take place? What are the steps in contingency planning? It starts with, first and foremost, developing multiple scenarios. You can do this, do brainstorming, storyboarding. There are lots of ways of developing multiple scenarios, but you need to make sure that you're able to identify what can possibly be, the what ifs in the future, as many as you can possibly think of, so that when any of them should happen, then you know how to work with it. And once you've been able to set the scenarios, we then need to look out for the triggers. What sign, what indication should let us know that this is happening? We should do this then. So, for example, if you are there and then you realize your temperature is getting too hot beyond your normal, or your tummy has been aching for too long, which is not normal, that would be a trigger for you to go to the hospital to see your doctor and tell your doctor that, doctor, my head has been aching for too long and the temperature is too high, which is not normal for me. In the same way, the business should also have triggers to know that once they see this symptom, they see this sign, they see this condition, they see this thing happening, then it means the contingency or that scenario is happening, or that situation is happening, and so we need to take this particular action in solving it. And so based on the scenarios you have and the triggers you've set out, you then need to look at your contingency plans and then say that, okay, if scenario A happens, this is what we are going to do. However, if scenario B happens, this is what we're also going to do. If scenario C happens, this is what we're also going to do in then. So basically, your contingency planning is all about having multiple scenarios projected for your future, and then having in place some sort of strategies to deal with them. They should just happen along the way. And for modern businesses, you need to have not just one, not just two, sometimes 3 or 4 contingency plans, just in case something happens somewhere out there. So in this session, we've looked at the management function of planning, where we've ended the discussion on planning by focusing our discussion on the nature of contingency planning, sometimes also called the what if planning or the situational planning as well. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you.